From Kevin Garnett straight up headbutting Dwight Howard to Ron Artest taking on the whole stadium, here are a few of the most iconic fights in the NBA. Starting with the brawl between LeBron James and Isaiah Stewart. The incident happened during a game between the Lakers and the Pistons in November 2021. In the third quarter, James drove to the basket and elbowed Stewart in the face, causing a laceration above his eye that required 8 stitches to close. Stewart was visibly upset and immediately charged at LeBron, shoving him in the back before being held back by his teammates and the referees. However, he continued to try and break free from their grasp, charging at LeBron multiple times and even breaking free at one point to run towards him again. The situation escalated quickly, with players from both teams getting involved and trying to separate Stewart from LeBron. The Lakers coaching staff and security personnel also got involved, trying to prevent Stewart from reaching LeBron. The incident caused a lengthy delay in the game, with both players being ejected from the game. However, Stewart was so upset that he had to be restrained by his teammates and escorted off the court, still trying to break free and go after LeBron. And these fights sometimes tend to happen between teammates too, which was the case with Jordan Poole and Draymond Green. During a game between the Warriors and Thunder in 2022, the incident occurred in the fourth quarter of the game, with Green yelling at Poole after a play. The exact reason for Green's outburst is unclear, but some reports suggest that he was upset with Poole's decision-making on the court. Green then appeared to shove Poole, and Poole responded by shoving Green back. The two players had to be separated by their teammates and officials before the situation escalated any further. After the game, Green downplayed the incident, saying that it was simply a misunderstanding between him and Poole. He also praised Poole's growth and development as a player, saying that he has a lot of potential and that he's excited to see what he can do in the future. Despite Green's attempt to downplay the incident, it's clear the tensions were running high on the court that day. Misunderstanding or not, the next feud was definitely provoked. The brawl between Chris Paul and Rajon Rondo was definitely one for the books. It happened during a game between the Rockets and the Lakers in 2018. The two players had a history of bad blood between them, which made the incident all the more intense. The incident started with a verbal exchange between the two players, with Rondo allegedly spitting in Paul's face. This led to Paul throwing a punch at Rondo, who then retaliated with a punch of his own.
It's hot now. Paul punches a throw. Paul and Rondo throwing punches. Ingram comes in. He's throwing punches. Security trying to separate. So are some of the teammates.
Several other players, including Lakers player Brandon Ingram, then got involved, with punches being thrown and players having to be separated by teammates and referees. The incident was captured on camera, and you could clearly see Paul and Rondo getting into it before the punches started flying. The incident resulted in all 3 players being ejected from the game, and they were subsequently suspended for several games as well. I guess this goes to show how heated things can get on the court, especially when the other team manages to score on you. The DeRozan versus Dragic fight that occurred during a game between the Raptors and Heat in 2016. The incident started when DeRozan was driving to the basket and elbowed Dragic in the face while trying to create space. Dragic immediately took exception to the elbow and pushed DeRozan in retaliation, which led to a heated confrontation between the two players. Both DeRozan and Dragic continued to push and shove each other, and at one point, DeRozan even grabbed Dragic by the back of the neck. The scuffle quickly escalated, with several other players from both teams getting involved. The referees ultimately had to step in and eject both DeRozan and Dragic from the game. DeRozan later apologized for his actions, saying that he let the heat of the moment get the best of him. It was also something similar in the case of the Kevin Garnett and Dwight Howard headbutt incident. Garnett isn't as famous as he used to be, but he's still one of the best in the NBA at making his opponents mad. In 2015, Garnett and Howard got into a fight, which led to KG being kicked out of the game between the Rockets and the Nets. They didn't take long to get tangled up. About halfway through the first quarter, Garnett and Howard pushed each other in a mild but annoyed way. Then Garnett threw the ball at Howard and gave him a headbutt. Howard hit back with a swing as his teammates ran over to help. Both players got technical fouls, and Garnett was kicked out of the game.
Garnett holds Howard. Oh, and Howard and Garnett getting into it. They have to be restrained. Kevin Garnett wants a piece of Howard.
During his 20 years in the NBA, Garnett has been one of the most combative players, and he and Howard, who joined the league in 2004, have had more than their fair share of fights. And did you know that some of these fights between players tend to get out of hand? In 2019, Joel Embiid of the 76ers and Karl Anthony Towns of the Timberwolves got into a fight in the third quarter of a game in Philadelphia. Both players were thrown out of the game. The two big men, who have a history of talking trash to each other, pushed each other at the Wolves' end of the court while the Sixers moved the ball up court. Towns threw a punch that missed and then put Embiid in a headlock. During the fight, Embiid was seen pressing his thumb into Towns' right eye as 76ers coach Brett Brown and other players tried to break up the fight. Before they were pulled apart, the players were still wrestling on their feet.
There's that double I was talking about. Now the two getting tangled. And the shoving turned into this.
Brown said after the game that he doesn't think Embiid will get suspended because he didn't see any punches being thrown and Embiid didn't start the fight. Afterward, Embiid made light of the situation by posting on his Instagram. Now, the next fight didn't just get a little bit out of hand, it even spilled into the stands. The infamous Malice at the Palace erupted when Ron Artest and Ben Wallace clashed on the basketball court. The brawl between the Indiana Pacers and Detroit Pistons on November 19, 2004 took place during a regular season game at the Palace of Auburn Hills in Michigan. As Wallace charged the rim, Artest fouled him with such force that Wallace took offense. In retaliation, Wallace pushed Artest, igniting a violent brawl that involved the entire team.
Knee bruised. Ben to the rack, lays it up, no, but we do have the whistle and a foul. Ben just went after Artest.
Oh, that's not
we
good.
got trouble right here in the Motor City. We got big trouble here in the Motor City.
Shockingly, the melee spilled over into the stands, where fans were caught up in the chaos, escalating the situation into a full-blown stadium brawl. The aftermath of the incident was significant, with several players being suspended, and some even faced criminal charges. The NBA also implemented stricter policies to prevent future incidents, such as limiting the sale of alcohol during games, increasing security measures, and harsher penalties for players involved in fights. The world watched in disbelief as one of the most unforgettable in-game fights in history unfolded before their eyes. There was a heated altercation between Robin Lopez and Serge Ibaka that resulted in both players throwing punches. The incident started when Ibaka and Lopez got tangled up while fighting for position under the basket. After some pushing and shoving, Ibaka threw a punch at Lopez, who responded by throwing a punch of his own.
Back out to Butler, doesn't hesitate, and a good decision by Jimmy Butler, who has 24. Watch out. Fight. Watch out. Lopez and Ibaka throwing punches. Oh, yeah.
Both players were quickly separated by teammates and officials, but not before landing a few blows. The incident resulted in both players being ejected from the game, as well as receiving suspensions from the league. Lopez was suspended for 1 game, while Ibaka received a 3-game suspension. That's all the iconic fights in the NBA for today.